His hands were on my waist, his breath warm against my skin. Every touch from him felt like fire, the kind that burned away reason, guilt, and everything I once believed I stood for. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. The room smelled of desire and betrayal. And then, as his lips brushed my neck, my phone lit up on the nightstand. A message. Ethan, kids are asleep. I'll wait up for you. My whole body froze. My husband was tucking our children into bed, while I was in another man's arms. I remember closing my eyes, feeling my pulse crash with guilt and panic. For a moment, I could not breathe. The sound of Caleb's whisper faded into silence, and all I could think about was the home I had just destroyed without a sound. Before I go deeper, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone watching. If you are new here, welcome, and if you have been following my stories, thank you for coming back. Your support means everything. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it is the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Please remember to drop your thoughts in the comments as we go. I truly love hearing your feelings and reactions. Now, let me take you to where it all began. My name is Rachel Moore. I am 34 years old, a mother of two, and until a few months ago, I thought I was living a life most people dreamed of. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood in North Carolina, the kind with perfect lawns, backyard barbecues, and the smell of fresh-cut grass on Sunday mornings. My husband, Ethan, is the kind of man people call dependable. He works as an engineer, quiet, kind, never misses a school play, never raises his voice, never forgets to pray with the kids before bed. He is gentle in ways most women wish for. But the truth is, sometimes love that is too safe starts to feel invisible. Our marriage was stable, yes. But stability can sometimes suffocate passion. We lived like two well-trained partners, sharing a roof, responsibilities, and routines, but not each other. The laughter faded, replaced by polite smiles. The touch that once sent chills now felt like habit. And that is when Caleb Miller walked into my life. Caleb was everything Ethan was not. He was bold, spontaneous, magnetic. I met him at the gym, of all places. I was there one morning, trying to fight the exhaustion of motherhood and monotony. He was new, a trainer who had the kind of confidence that filled the room. Our first conversation was harmless. He complimented my focus. I laughed, said I was just trying to survive the treadmill. But his eyes lingered longer than they should have. Days turned into weeks. Small talk turned into long conversations. I told him things I had not told anyone in years, how I felt unseen, how life had turned into a list of chores, how I missed feeling desired. Caleb listened like every word mattered. And then one afternoon, after a workout, he touched my arm and said softly, "You deserve to feel alive again." That line, that simple, dangerous line, changed everything. I started seeing him outside the gym. Coffee first. Then lunch. Then long drives. It was not love at first. It was escape. It was the thrill of being wanted. The rush of hearing my name spoken with hunger instead of habit. Every time Ethan texted asking when I would be home, I crafted excuses: traffic, late grocery run, helping a friend. Lies slipped off my tongue like second nature. I told myself I was just trying to feel again. That I would stop before it went too far. But passion has a way of blinding reason. The first time Caleb kissed me, we were parked near a lake just outside town. The air smelled of pine and summer rain. His lips brushed mine, and my heart raced like I was 17 again. I wanted to pull away, but I didn't. I leaned in. After that, there was no turning back. It happened on a Friday. Ethan had picked up our kids. Lily, 7, and Aaron, 5, from school. He had texted me earlier asking if I wanted to have a movie night with them. I said I had to finish a project for work. Another lie. Caleb and I met at his apartment. The lights were dim. Music played softly. Everything felt intoxicating and wrong. His hands traced every place I had forgotten how to feel. It was passion, wild, consuming, and destructive. And then my phone buzzed. Ethan again. Kids are tucked in. Aaron asked where mommy is. That was the moment everything hit me. The sound of Caleb's heartbeat against mine faded. My skin felt cold. My throat closed up as tears filled my eyes. Ethan was home, being the man I had always said I wanted, gentle, loving, patient, while I was betraying him in the cruelest way possible. I turned over, grabbed my clothes, and sat on the edge of the bed. Caleb reached for me, but I could not look at him. The guilt was suffocating. It crawled into my chest like poison. In that single moment, I saw the woman I had become, a liar, a cheat, a mother hiding sin behind lipstick and perfume. I drove home in silence that night. The road felt endless. When I pulled into our driveway, I could see Ethan through the living room window, sitting on the couch, half asleep, waiting for me. The kids' drawings were scattered on the table beside him. He looked so peaceful. So pure. And I was a storm that had already begun to destroy everything. That night, as I kissed his forehead and whispered, "I love you," I could taste the lie on my tongue. My body was there, but my soul was fractured. Ethan smiled, half asleep, believing every word I said. He had no idea. He had no idea that while he was tucking our children into bed, I was in another man's arms. And that was the night my life started to unravel. Morning light crept through the blinds, landing on my face like a quiet reminder of what I had done. I woke up next to Ethan that Saturday, his arm loosely wrapped around my waist. He smelled of soap and comfort, the scent of everything safe and good in this world. And all I could think about was Caleb. It had been less than 12 hours since I left his apartment, but the memory of his touch still clung to my skin. The guilt mixed with longing until it became a heavy ache in my chest. I wanted to forget it, to erase every trace, but at the same time, I wanted to feel it again. That contradiction was the prison I built for myself. Ethan stirred, kissed my shoulder, and whispered, "You got home late last night." I smiled, forcing my voice to sound casual. "Work ran longer than expected." He nodded, trusting me without hesitation. That trust cut deeper than any accusation could have. In the weeks that followed, I became an expert at pretending. I cooked, cleaned, laughed, and smiled, all while carrying a secret that was slowly poisoning me. Ethan's kindness became unbearable. Every act of love, a morning coffee, a random hug, a note tucked into my purse, felt like salt rubbed into an open wound. Caleb, on the other hand, became my escape. We met whenever we could, stolen hours between errands, quiet corners of parking lots, hotel rooms that smelled of cheap air freshener and sin. What started as excitement soon turned into addiction. He was dangerous in the way he made me forget myself. His voice could drown out my conscience. But afterward, when silence filled the room, reality would come crashing back. There were nights I would come home and stand outside my house, staring at the front door, terrified to walk in. Terrified of Ethan's eyes, not because he knew, but because he did not. Guilt changes everything. It changes the way you speak, the way you move, the way you breathe. I began to notice Ethan studying me more often, though he said nothing. One evening, as I folded laundry in the bedroom, he walked in holding my phone. My stomach tightened. "You got a message," he said. It kept vibrating. He placed the phone on the dresser without looking at it, but his tone had a question hidden inside it. I smiled, pretending to be calm. "Probably just work stuff." He nodded slowly, but his eyes lingered on me longer than usual. Then he left the room. The moment he closed the door, my knees gave out. My hands shook as I unlocked the screen. It was Caleb. "When can I see you again? I miss your skin." I deleted it instantly, my heart racing so loud I could hear it echoing in my ears. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining Ethan finding out, imagining the look on his face, that quiet, crushing disappointment that I knew would destroy me. life continued. On Sundays, we went to church as a family. I held Ethan's hand and smiled at the neighbors who called us the perfect couple. Lily and Aaron sat between us, their laughter filling the car. From the outside, we looked like everything was fine. But inside, I was rotting. Every lie stacked on top of another until I could barely remember which stories I had told. Caleb started getting impatient. He wanted more of me, more time, more emotion, more everything. He would text at midnight, jealous if I did not respond. "You say you care about me," he once said, "but you are still living with him." That night, after ending the call, I cried quietly beside Ethan. He reached over in his sleep, wrapped his arm around me, and whispered, "I love you, Ratch." And I broke. I wanted to confess. I wanted to fall to my knees and tell him everything. But fear held me still. I was too far gone, too tangled in lies to tell the truth. It was a Wednesday afternoon when the first real crack appeared. Ethan came home early from work. I did not hear his car. I was in the kitchen, talking to Caleb on speaker, my voice low but careless. He was teasing me, asking what I was wearing. I laughed softly, a dangerous, foolish laugh. Then I heard Ethan's voice behind me. "Who are you talking to?" My blood froze. I turned around slowly. He was standing by the doorway, holding a bag of groceries, his expression unreadable. I forced a smile. "Just a friend from work." She was asking about tomorrow's meeting. Ethan nodded, still looking at me. Then he set the bag on the counter and began unpacking it, silent. The air between us grew heavy. My throat was dry. Every second stretched like an hour. Later that night, he barely spoke to me. He was polite but distant. He went to bed early, leaving me sitting alone in the living room, staring at my reflection in the dark window. I knew that he was beginning to sense the truth, even if he could not yet see it. From that night on, guilt stopped being an emotion and became a haunting. I started waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, hearing Ethan's voice in my dreams. I saw his face when I closed my eyes, not angry, just broken. Even Caleb began to notice. "You are different," he said during one of our meetings. "You are scared." He was right. I was terrified. Every time my phone buzzed, I imagined Ethan reading my messages. Every time he looked at me, I imagined he could see through my skin. I tried ending it with Caleb once. I told him I needed to go back to my family, that I wanted to be a good wife and mother again. But he would not let go so easily. He pulled me close, his voice low and certain. "You will come back," he said. "You always do." And he was right. I did. Because I was too weak to stop. One evening, Ethan surprised me with dinner. He said he wanted to spend more time together, just the two of us. He had noticed how distant I had become. He said he missed me. We sat across from each other at a small restaurant downtown. He talked about our future, about taking the kids to Florida that summer. His eyes sparkled with hope, and for the first time in months, I saw the man I had promised forever to. But even then, even as he reached for my hand, a part of me felt detached. It was as if I had already ruined too much to return. When we got home, he kissed me goodnight and whispered, "Whatever is pulling you away, I hope it loses." I stood there in the dark hallway, holding back tears. Ethan had no idea how right he was. Something was pulling me away. Something that had already begun to consume me. By the end of that week, I knew my secret would not stay hidden much longer. Ethan's silence was heavier than words. He watched me closely, asked fewer questions, and spent more time alone. Caleb kept pressing harder. Ethan kept pulling away. And I was standing in the middle, torn apart by two worlds that could not exist together. It was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. And when it did, it was far worse than I ever imagined. It was a cold Thursday evening when my world ended. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones and lingers, even when you are inside. The sky had been gray all day, heavy with the promise of rain. I remember looking out the kitchen window as I stirred a pot of soup, pretending that everything was still normal, pretending that I was still a wife, a mother, and not the ghost of the woman I used to be. Ethan had been quiet for weeks. Too quiet. He smiled when he needed to, spoke when necessary, and avoided anything that felt too deep. But I could feel the change in the air around him, the distance, the watchfulness. It was like living beside someone who already knew the truth but was waiting for the right moment to face it. That moment came sooner than I expected. Ethan came home early from work that evening. His footsteps were steady, his voice calm when he greeted me. Lily and Aaron ran to him, wrapping their arms around his legs as he lifted them and kissed their foreheads. To anyone watching, we looked like a family. But I could see it in his eyes, something was different. After dinner, he asked if we could talk. His tone was gentle, almost too gentle. We sat in the living room. The children were upstairs, the faint sound of cartoons coming from their room. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. My stomach turned before he even spoke. "I found something today," he said quietly. "Do you want to see it, Rachel?" I could barely breathe. My voice trembled. "What do you mean?" He unlocked the screen and turned it toward me. My entire world froze. It was a screenshot, a message thread. My messages. Caleb's name at the top. Words that felt like poison on the screen. Words that should never have existed. Words like, "I need you again," and "last night was perfect." My body went cold. My throat closed up. I wanted to speak, to explain, to say something, anything, but no words came. Ethan just stared at me, his eyes glistening with tears that refused to fall. He did not raise his voice. That was what made it worse. The silence between his words was louder than any shouting could ever be. "How long?" he asked simply. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling. "A few months," I whispered. He nodded, staring down at the floor. "While I was putting our kids to bed?" His voice cracked slightly. "While I was here, believing you were working late, you were with him?" The shame hit me like a wave. My eyes burned, but I could not cry. I did not deserve the relief of tears. "Yes," I said finally. My voice broke on the word. "I am sorry." He looked up, his eyes full of disbelief and heartbreak. "Sorry?" "Rachel, you did not make a mistake. You made choices." Over and over again. Each word was like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. I wanted to beg him to understand, to tell him that I had felt lost, invisible, unloved, but even as the thoughts formed, I realized how selfish they sounded. Ethan had been here all along. I was the one who walked away. He stood up, his movements slow, heavy. "I do not even know who you are anymore," he said. "You were supposed to be my home." That sentence shattered something inside me. For the rest of that night, I sat on the edge of our bed while he packed a few of my things into a suitcase. There was no shouting, no slamming doors. Just silence and the sound of zippers closing over what used to be a life. When he was done, he turned to me. "I cannot look at you right now," he said quietly. "Not here. Not in front of them." Them he meant were our children, our innocent, smiling children who were asleep upstairs, unaware that their world was about to break. I stood up, my knees weak. "Please, Ethan. I know I do not deserve anything, but let me say goodbye to them in the morning." He hesitated, then nodded once. "Tomorrow morning," he said. "Then you go." He walked out of the room and closed the door softly behind him. That night, I lay awake in the dark, listening to the sound of his footsteps on the floorboards, the quiet rustle of the kids' blankets as he checked on them. It was a sound that had once comforted me, a reminder of how safe our family was. Now, it was a sound that broke me. Because while Ethan was tucking our kids into bed, I had been in another man's arms. Morning came too soon. The house was quiet, heavy with sadness. Ethan was in the kitchen making pancakes for Lily and Aaron, just like he always did. His voice was calm, his movements gentle, but he did not look at me. Not once. When the kids saw me, they ran over, hugging my legs. "Mommy, are you coming to the park later?" Lily asked, her eyes full of hope. I knelt down, forcing a smile. "Not today, sweetheart. Mommy has to go away for a little while." Aaron frowned. "Why?" My throat tightened. "Because Mommy made a mistake," I whispered. "But I love you both very, very much." They hugged me tighter, not understanding, not yet. I kissed their foreheads, breathing them in, trying to memorize their warmth, their scent, their innocence, because I knew that after today, nothing would ever be the same. When I stood up, Ethan was by the counter, his arms crossed. He looked at me for the first time since last night. There was no anger left, just sadness. A kind of sadness that comes when love dies quietly. "Go," he said softly. I nodded. My suitcase was by the door. I picked it up, turned one last time to look at the home I had destroyed, and walked out. Days turned into weeks. Caleb tried to reach me, but I could not answer. I deleted his number, his messages, his photos, everything. He had been my escape, but he was also my ruin. I could not face him again. I rented a small apartment across town. It was silent, empty, and cold. Every night I sat alone, staring at my phone, wishing Ethan would call. Wishing I could undo everything. But he never did. Sometimes, I drove past our old house. I would see the kids playing in the yard, Ethan sitting on the porch with his coffee, looking tired but peaceful. They were healing, without me. That was the hardest part. Knowing they were finally finding peace in a world where I no longer belonged. People say time heals everything. I disagree. Time only teaches you how to live with the pain. I learned that night that betrayal does not just break trust, it breaks souls. It changes how your children will see love, how your husband will see you, and how you will see yourself. Ethan never forgave me. He moved on, quietly and completely. And I do not blame him. Some wounds are too deep for forgiveness. Now, every time I see a man holding his child's hand, or a family laughing together at a restaurant, I feel the ache of what I threw away. Because I had everything, love, loyalty, family, and I traded it for moments that vanished as soon as they ended. And when Ethan found out, when truth finally spoke, it took everything with it.